Released in 1996 for the Sega Saturn, Nights into Dreams is a 3D game where you fly around collecting blue chips during a kid's sleep. The plans for the game go back to 1992, but it didn't start development until 1994, the year Sonic 3 released. The project was directed by Naoto Ushima and produced by a felon. After a while of development, the game was finished and released on July 5th, 1996 in Japan, sometime in August 1996 in America, and September 5th, 1996 in Europe. Along with the release came a bundle pack that contained a 3D controller. I first played this game through emulation, and at the time I thought it was good. It was just something about it that made me like it. So, is this game worth your time and money? Yes. Play as two characters, Elliot and Clarice. I'm gonna go with Elliot. The game starts with you getting robbed. Nice. And then knights take over your body. Now the controls are gonna feel really weird if you haven't played the game before, but it's very easy to adjust to its gameplay. And once you're a champ, they can be a cakewalk. This game looks pretty good, which is impressive because this was made for the Sega Saturn, which was meant to be a very powerful 2D console, but it sadly ended up being a pretty weak 3D console. Sega did a pretty good job making it seem like this game takes place in a kid's dream. I'm gonna let you figure out the joke for yourself. The soundtrack. Holy macaroni. The soundtrack is amazing. I don't even have to elaborate further. Just listen to it. In conclusion, Nights into Dreams is a great and fun game. If you want to play it, then the best version is available on Steam. And if you want to go for the Saturn version out of box, then it's pretty cheap. But if you want to get the original Saturn version inside the box in mint condition, prepare to go bankrupt. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Nights into Dreams for the Sega Saturn.
But I'm not done yet!
For the Christmas season and the hype around Nights, Sega put out a sampler disc in November and December 1996 called Christmas Nights. It's just a couple of levels and a couple of mini games. That's it. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and as always, remember to check your mailbox. Released in 1996, 1997, and 1998 for the Sony PlayStation, the original Crash Bandicoot Trilogy is a series of 3D games where you stop a mad scientist by jumping and spinning. The main character, Crash, was originally going to be named Willy Wombat until Naughty Dog realized that that was a stupid name. When I first played these in 2022, I thought they were fun platformers. So, are these worth your time and money? Let's find out. In all three of these games, you control Crash by using the D-pad. The level design in these games are basically 2D stages in a 3D view, so the D-pad makes sense. And it's the same thing in Crash 2 and Crash Warped. And the level mechanics in Warped and Crash 2 are also pretty fun in the stages. Also, I forgot to put this in the script, but Crash's sister, Coco Bandicoot, is playable and warped, so yeah, she's cool. The graphics in the trilogy just seem to get better each game. Like, take for example the character models. The character models in Crash 2 and Warped are similar to the original models, but with enough improvements for me to say that the character models are better. The trilogy's soundtrack gives off an adventure vibe, which makes sense, because Crash 1, Crash 2, and Crash Warped are adventure platform games. In conclusion, I think that Crash Warped is the best out of the original trilogy. I think that Crash 2 is great, and I also think that Crash 1 is a good game for the first in the franchise. If you want to play these, I've heard that the Insane Trilogy remasters are the best ways to play the game, so you can just get those. I mean, it's on Steam and Xbox. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the PS1 Crash Bandicoot trilogy. Wait, aren't you gonna do the Crash dance? No. Aww. Okay, I'll probably do it at the end of my Crash 4 review. Remember to check your mailbox, buddy! Wrath of Cortex might be one of the best games ever. Wait a minute, that wasn't in the script! Released in 2001 for the original Xbox, PlayStation 2, and the Nintendo GameCube, Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex is a 3D game that's hated by most, if not all, of the Crash Bandicoot community. After Naughty Dog gave up the Crash license, it was handed over to Traveler's Tales. And they were screwed over by Universal because Universal gave them a 12-month deadline. I first played this game last year, and I thought it was good. Boy, I was wrong. The game controls decently. Finally using an analog stick is nice, but sadly, all the movement upgrades in Crash Warped need to be unlocked in a game that released after Crash Warped. That's dumb! This game also introduces the Altisphere. It controls like crap, but it's there. There are also the minecart sections, and oh my god, they're boring! And when you 106% the game, you get to do these again. Great, just what I wanted! Except now, you're racing against Crunch Bandicoot. Crunch was created by Cortex to be a Crash Bandicoot death machine. That's it. I don't like the visuals. Now, to be fair, I am recording using the GameCube version, which is messed up when it comes to graphics and the frame rate, but that doesn't mean I can't have an issue with how this game looks. Like, you're seriously telling me that this was made for the 6th generation of consoles? Super Smash Bros. Melee released the same year, and that looks way better than this. So what's this game's excuse? The music is okay. It's worse than the trilogies, but it's still alright. In conclusion, Wrath of Cortex is a very underwhelming Crash game. If Traveler's Tales was given enough time to make the game, he probably would have had a good game, but it's sad when it amounts to what this game ended up as. So yeah, remember to check your mailbox. Released in 2002 and 2003 for the Nintendo Game Boy Advance, Crash Bandicoot: The Huge Adventure and Crash Bandicoot 2 N-Tranced are 2D games that try to take the 2D sections from the trilogy and give its own spin on it. Both of these games were handled by Vicarious Visions, who are also known today for the Insane Trilogy. These are my first time playing these games, so let's go, I guess. The controls are great. Since the levels in the trilogy were just 2D stages in a 3D view, and the fact that these two games were developed entirely in 2D, guess what Vicarious Visions did? They nailed it. And the shark chasing stages are very fun as well. The Game Boy Advance is a 32-bit machine, and let me tell you, Huge Adventure and N-Tranced looks pretty good. And it's pixelated, which makes sense, because these were for the GBA, so good job, Vicarious Visions. The soundtrack. The soundtrack is so much better than Wrath of Cortex. Well, everything in these two games are better than Wrath of Cortex. In conclusion, both of these games are pretty good. I believe that N-Tranced is the better one out of the two games, but that doesn't diminish the quality of Huge Adventure. If you want to play these, I recommend getting an actual GBA and actual cartridges of the games, because to this day, at least to my knowledge, both of these games have never been ported. So yeah. Remember to check your mail. Released in 2004 for the Game Boy Advance and to tie into Spyro Orange, Crash Bandicoot Purple Ripto's Rampage is a 2D game that's a crossover with another popular series known as Spyro the Dragon. This game was once again developed by Vicarious Visions, and it got some pretty mixed reviews. Just like the other two GBA games, this is my first time playing this game. The American and European box arts are practically the same thing, except for the logo and the fact that the European box art is zoomed in. Oh yeah, the Japanese box art got a completely different box art with the different design of Crash, because back when the first game was being made, Naughty Dog asked its artist to redesign Crash for Japan to be more cuter and more friendly for gamers in Japan. And it clearly worked, because Crash was more popular in Japan than the US back then. Dr. Cortex and Ripto team up to take down Crash and Spyro. That's it. The game controls just like the previous two. But don't you worry, there's some variety. See, the 2D platforming is for the hub worlds. The actual game comes in where you play a bunch of mini levels to beat the game. For better or worse. All of these mini games suck. They're not fun and they're painfully boring. Oh yeah, there's a party mode. Don't bother. The graphics are serviceable. I'm being a little bit nice because this was on the Game Boy Advance, which was limited in terms of colors. There's not much to say here. The music is serviceable, just like the graphics. In conclusion, Crash Purple is fine. It's not as bad as many people make it out to be, but it's still not that great. So yeah, remember to check your mailbox. Released in 2004 for the original Xbox and PlayStation 2, Crash Twinsanity is a 3D open Crash game that was released 3 years after Wrath of Cortex. If you don't recall from my Wrath of Cortex video, Wrath of Cortex turned out the way it did because of a 12-month deadline. So you would assume that because Twinsanity was released 3 years later, maybe Traveler's Tales was given more time to make the game better. No! The game started out as Crash Bandicoot Evolution, but that didn't happen because the first Ratchet and Clank game was released, and it was basically the Crash Bandicoot Evolution concept. So that was scrapped, and a more comedic game was being worked on, which was what Twinsanity would end up becoming. It had even less time to develop Twinsanity, because they spent so much effort on Crash Bandicoot Evolution. Universal gave them a deadline of 2004. The game ended up being 1/3 of the game that Traveler's Tales wanted to make. Screw you, Universal. So, does Twinsanity hold up? Short answer, yes. Long answer, let's find out. The American box art was drawn by Jordan Rydchek, who also wrote this game. And the box art looks pretty good, although Europeans got a much more detailed render, which looks a little better in my opinion. Oh yeah, the Japanese box art got a different render, as expected. Coco was wandering around in the field of Insanity Island until Cortex pops out of a tree and stuns him, which leads to this.
Crash! Crash! Where are you, big brother? There's something weird going on in the bay! Come see!
So Cortex, Coco lures him into an area where Coco reveals herself to be Coco Cortex, which leads to the floor collapsing, where they get out and they get introduced to the worst characters in the whole game.
Feels good. I was
shut your ass up.
there. How are you fools?
These are the evil twins. Two bird-like creatures that want to destroy Cortex and rule over Insanity Island for a really uninteresting reason. And yes, that is their real names.
How are you fools before the awesome might of the evil twins?
No, I refuse to call them that. From now on, I'm gonna call them the Bad Bunch. So now Crash and Cortex have to team up to stop the Bad Bunch. And I think that helps it. Not to mention the game's humor. Jordan Rydchek is a genius. I'm just gonna say that right now. The humor in this game is so funny.
Well, the past few years have kind of been slow. Wrath of Cortex didn't do as well as we'd hoped, and... Fish?
Who has released me from my icy tomb? My, can it be? Crash and Cortex? I don't know whether to kiss you or kill you!
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Hell, Jordan even poked fun at Universal for practically ruining this game.
Come now, as we explore a new dimension!
It should have been 2 new dimensions, but we ran out of time.
To put it simply, Crash's controls are amazing. Heck, the unlockable moves from Crash Warped, unlike Wrath of Cortex, are unlocked when you start the game. Very good, Traveler's Tales. You deserve a cookie. The ball rolling from Wrath of Cortex was slightly improved, It's not that much better though. Next up, we have these type of stages where Crash carries Cortex around and stuff. And if you use the X and circle button, if we're going off the PS2 version's logic, you can throw him to activate switches for level design, which is pretty neat, I would say. Now here's my favorite of the Crash and Cortex combo moves. Snowboarding! These sections are so fun. And the music! I will mention the music later, but for now, trust me when I say it's good. You can also play as Cortex by himself, and you can play as his niece, Nina Cortex. Fun fact, Nina's first appearance wasn't in Twinsanity. It was actually in Crash Bandicoot Purple. The reason I didn't mention Nina in my Crash Purple review was because she was more a playable character or essential to the plot. So yeah. This is a gorgeous game. Unless you're stupid, you probably noticed that I'm using the widescreen feature. And I personally think it looks way better. Now don't get me wrong, the game is still as beautiful as Ariana Grande when you're playing in 4x3. But I don't know, playing it in widescreen just feels right. Let me just say that the music in Twinsanity is godly. It was composed by Spiral Mouth, and they did an amazing job. Just listen to them. At the end of the day, yes, I know this game is uneven. Yes, I know about the glitches. And yes, I know about all the cut content. But god dang it, I can't stop myself from liking this game. I love almost everything about it. If you want to play it, it's backwards compatible on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So if you have the Xbox and PS2 version, play it on those consoles. So yeah, remember to check your mailbox. Released in 2002, directed by Sam Raimi, Spider-Man is a feature film that adapts the comic books into a feature film. This movie had a huge budget of $139 million, and it did so well that it made more than its budget. I remember this film being goofy but fun. So, is it worth buying on DVD for $4.72? Let's find out. Just like the comics, games, and the gun that you can get for $8, the story is very simple. It's about Peter Parker having to balance being a school student, being a superhero, having a bad girlfriend that cheats on people, having his best friend's dad try to kill him, and having a dead uncle. Damn. The story might be very vague from the way I described it, but at least it gets the main point across. In this film, the web slinger is famously portrayed by Tobey Maguire, and he does a pretty good job. Same with the other actors. Hey, I forgot to mention Mary Jane in the script, so yeah, she's cool and her actor is also cool. This is what you call a good movie, but it's not just a good movie, it's a good adaptation. So yeah, remember to check your mailbox. I'm keeping this short to spend time with my family. Released in 2024 for modern consoles, Penny's Big Breakaway is a 3D game that has grown to be one of my favorite games of all time. This game was made by Evening Star, which consisted of developers who previously worked with Sega on Sonic Mania. Get ready to hear me talk about one of the best games ever made. I can sum up this box art in 2 words. Absolutely fantastic. So this game takes place in Vanilla Town. We meet our main protagonist, Penny. She sees this audition. She thought, I'm gonna join that. So, her and your... God dang it. She brought her yo-yo and both of them performed. Everyone loved it until the yo-yo went crazy and made someone naked. And now they're convicted felons. This game uses the Retro engine, which is the same engine that Christian Whitehead, the man who made the Sonic remasters and Sonic Mania, and those games played great. But those were in 2D, so does it work well in 3D? What a stupid question, you dumb bitch. This game controls phenomenally, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. First off is the moveset. So Penny uses her yo-yo to go around places, and by herself she can do things that a normal platform game would do, like running, jumping, all that good stuff. She can use her yo-yo for the level design purposes to get around some of the level design. I really like that, and if a sequel ever gets made, I'd really like to see them do more of it. Now, there is one complaint I have with the gameplay in this game, and that is that there isn't any camera control. No, you're so stupid. That is such a small complaint. It doesn't affect the game at all. Shh. Let me finish. Yes, that complaint is insignificant to the game, but I personally think camera control can add a lot to the gameplay. Case in point, Super Mario Odyssey. We all know what Mario Odyssey is, and to shorten my thoughts on it, I think it's a great game and you should go buy a blah blah blah. I don't have a capture card, so I'm using footage from the E3 trailer. This game has camera control. It works very well. Like, okay, imagine if Mario Odyssey didn't have camera control. Yeah, the game would still be good, but it would be a lot worse. Hey soda sauce, darn you. So, beauty. It can range from multiple things, like the sky and my queen, but what is beauty? As you can see, this is the first definition that comes up. Let's see what the second one is. Why does that make sense? This game is gorgeous. You can tell that Evening Star poured every single piece of their heart into this game. You want to kiss these graphics. Don't deny it. What do you want me to say? This has to be, without a doubt, one of my favorite video games of all time. If you haven't played this for some reason, what are you doing with your poor life? Go play this right now. So yeah, remember to check your mailbox, and also, Merry Christmas.